Hi, I am Abhishek on the Google Cloud team. Today I would like to talk about migrating workloads to cloud. Thanks for joining me in this session, and in the next 30 minutes or so, I should be able to give you a perspective on how Google approaches the question of migrating workloads, existing workloads, to cloud. And let me start with stating the obvious. There is an enormous amount of pressure, competitive pressure to deliver value to our customer by delighting them with exquisite experiences and differentiating your business in the process. But you can't take long, you can't take forever. The competition is as agile as you want to be, and therefore it's important that this race remains a very fast moving one. Now, let's look at what happens if the element of time is ignored, right? You could end up sacrificing a significant market impact that you could create. Further delays could end up could lead to spending too much money, more than what you planned for. And worst of all, it could even expose you to disruption where your idea completely loses its value. I don't want to paint a grim picture, but this is very much a reality. So what happens? Let's put things into perspective a little bit more and see what are the challenges along the way. Almost half the early migrators whom we have, we have done sufficient research, and the data suggests that large organizations, especially large enterprise customers, they have 50 or more people working only on their migration strategy. That means it's not an easy problem to solve. It takes a lot of resources that could strain any organization. Moving forward, enterprises are not as simple an animal as one would expect, because you don't get to start afresh every day, right? You have an ongoing business, you have got ongoing customers that you need to take care of, and in the same breath, in the same sprint, you also need to innovate. You also need to disrupt yourself, and in the process, you are running your legacy systems, which need to continue to run. You continue to invest in those areas, and in combination with continuing to run what you have, as well as building something new, could make things fairly complicated. What happens because of that? You delay your move to newer platforms. In summary, you basically delay your move to cloud, and that locks you out. That locks you out from the capability of realizing the benefits that cloud can provide. For example, you have sufficient amount of data that is available in your transactional systems, as well as your other enterprise data warehouse systems that you might have built over a period of time. So there is a lot of actionable intel which is locked in that data that cannot move to cloud, where all the new artificial intelligence as well as machine learning capabilities exist. You have challenges in, even though the technology exists and you could leverage that technology for business gains, the sheer fact that you don't have a strategy of how to leverage these technologies in combination with the data that you have acquired over a period of time could severely limit your capabilities in terms of differentiating yourselves. So in summary, not able to realize the potential that cloud can offer could severely limit the amount of innovation that you can bring to your business, to your customers, and therefore create a substantial impact, right? And any organization today would not debate the fact that data is the real currency. That information holds the keys to success in not only today but even tomorrow. And because cloud is the area where innovation is happening, it is essential for every enterprise to have this strategy to get that data, to get those workloads, and get all the necessary ecosystem moved to cloud as soon as possible. But as I said earlier, it's extremely complicated for an enterprise with already established business to move the workload to the cloud. Now, does this mean that everything is grim for an enterprise? Well, not so much. let's look at an example over here of I don't need to, it's a very popular example. I feel bad about bringing this up, but just because you are growing today does not mean that your growth for tomorrow is also guaranteed, right? Organizations that take time to adopt, take time to react, could have substantial challenges in ensuring their survival, right? And again, I don't want to paint a grim picture, but not having a strategy for cloud could be a massive disadvantage that could be fatal for any enterprise today. So how do we do it? We understand that it's a difficult problem. If I can summarize myself, I understand it's a difficult problem to solve for a large enterprise. It is also, but at the same time, it is also extremely important that we put a strategy in place. So how do we go about doing it? Let's look at Google's contribution. How Google can contribute to an enterprise in this pursuit of moving their existing workloads to cloud, making them cloud ready, and opening the doors of all the innovation that cloud has to offer for our enterprises to leverage. At the very least, Google can help you identify these workloads, which you can decide what to move first, what would create maximum impact, the proverbial low-hanging fruits, right? And give you a roadmap on how to do it, not in months, but in weeks, and one would argue even in matter of days. To do so, we have basically created several channels. They are in the space of methodology, they are in space of technology, as well as various consumption models, which is very enterprise friendly. So when you move to cloud, you are essentially looking to move to a very robust infrastructure, something that not only meets your current requirements, but also adds to the capability from an infrastructure standpoint, so that you can build your services that are more scalable, that are more available, that cost less to operate, as well as are extremely nimble, so that they can react to change in a much better way, overall leading to better business outcomes. Now, at Google, we have spent a lot of time and energy and effort to make this capability extremely enterprise ready and enterprise friendly. So how do we bring this agility? The first step to that is we help you speed up the migration process with Google Cloud Discovery and Evaluation Platform. This is essentially Google grade engineers looking into your existing infrastructure, pouring in there all their efforts and energy to identify those workloads which can go to cloud and take maximum advantage of all the innovation that exists in that realm. And once migrated, Google will also help you innovate even more with the overall Google Cloud ecosystem that extends in one end of the spectrum to machine learning and artificial intelligence, and on the other end of the spectrum to extremely robust infrastructure as well as platform services. It's not all about technology. As I mentioned earlier, having a strong plan to move to cloud is extremely critical. And therefore, the approach that Google has taken as an organization is to offer professional services to help you create this plan, this execution, this strategy on which you can execute in order to move to cloud as soon as you can. It starts with a one-day strategic session to help you scope out your project for moving to cloud. And then it goes on to Cloud Sprint, which is essentially helping you identify and migrate those initial workloads. Hold your hand, give you the capability and understanding of how to move your workloads to cloud, and do that in a matter of weeks, not really drag it out to months and months and months like what you might have experienced in the traditional enterprise setup. But then it is also important that you do not ignore security. Once you are on cloud, you can further enhance the capabilities of your application from a security standpoint. And that's where you can spend some time with Google engineers and Google professional services experts to address certain security risks, compliance requirements, and any other concern in the realm of security that might be there in your mind. So overall, our professional services can directly contribute in creating this plan and help you execute on it in order to move your workloads to cloud as soon as possible. Now that you have a concrete plan, you have a strategy, and on paper everything looks good, you are now planning on how do I execute on this? How do I take that first workload off to cloud and one after the other make sure that I can move everything that is running on-prem to cloud and all the cloud goodness that we just spoke of becomes magically available for you to use and deliver value to your business? Well, it's at least in theory, there could be certain questions in your mind that may still hold you back from making that happen, from moving your workloads to cloud. The first question that would come to your mind is, what happens if something goes wrong? Second question that would come to your mind is, well, it's not a small workload that I'm serving. There are terabytes of data that needs to move to cloud. It's going to be taking time. And while the migration is taking place from your previous experiences of moving enterprise workloads from one platform to the other or from one data center to the other, you would probably remember that it's extremely disruptive. Your end consumers might find their workloads disrupted, not able to access the services that you are offering, and the business disruption is just too big a call to make in isolation. So what do you do? Well, at Google we understand this challenge, right? And therefore we have built capabilities that will help you manage this risk, right? There are several technologies and tools that form this data migration toolkit, which will make life simple when it comes to answering the question of moving workloads to Google Cloud. Well, the first component in that is Velostrada, one of my favorite tools in Google Cloud. It's a free to use solution. That means you don't have to pay for the tool, which you can install in your existing on-prem virtualized environment. It will help you discover all the virtual assets that you might be running, all the virtual machines that are running in your premises, or even in third-party cloud services. And you could move them transparently to Google Cloud. The technology is pretty interesting. I would request you and urge you to go and check that out on cloud.google.com. But in summary, Velostrada can seamlessly move your existing workloads, replicate them to Google Cloud, and in matter of minutes, you could be serving your workload from cloud. The best part is, you don't have to move entire terabytes worth of data before you can start serving your customer once again, which means minimal amount of downtime or least amount of disruption, business disruption, while your applications are being moved from on-prem environments to Google Cloud. But that's not the only magic trick up Velostrada's sleeve. The next one is that if something goes wrong, if there is something that goes wrong, you don't have to solve for it immediately on cloud. You could always go back. So Velostrada, the same tool that helped you migrate workloads from on-prem to Google Cloud, will help you take this workload back into on-prem and give you the opportunity to triage it and solve it and make sure that you can fix any business, technical or operational challenges that might have come when you first attempted to move this workload to Google Cloud. It's an impressive technology. I urge you again to go and check that out. Well, that's not the only tool that Google has to offer. It's technology, but how about testing things out? And usually in an enterprise environment, testing workloads, there isn't really a lot of budget handy for you to move your workloads to cloud. And an argument can be made that while you are moving your workloads to Google Cloud, you are paying for the same workload in your premises as well as or possibly in some other cloud service platform. So in that case, can something be done? Well, Google very generously offers free tier as well as GCP credits that will give you a starter boost to to test these workloads, moving these workloads to cloud, keeping your keeping any financial constraints to bare minimum, right? And therefore, lack of funds is not really a reason for you to not try out moving workloads to cloud. So just to kind of summarize again, in one hand you have Velostrada, the tool that lets you easily move your on-premises workload to Google Cloud and take it back again should something go wrong, and you get a generous free tier. There is no reason why you should not try moving your existing workloads to Google Cloud, at least to check it out. What happens when you move your workload to cloud, and what value that you can add to your existing assets. So now that I have Velostrada as well as credits, a question still remains. What if I have enormous amount of data that I have generated over a period of time, and all this data, when it has to move to cloud, is uploading them over network the most efficient way? Probably it's even time prohibited. I have petabytes worth of data that needs to move to cloud, and trying to upload them all over the internet is not really an easy problem to solve. So what do we do in that case? Well, Google also has data transfer appliance. It's a technology which where we can ship you a device. You can put all that big chunk of data that you want to move to cloud on that appliance, and then just ship it to us, and we would move it into cloud for you. It's an extremely simple as well as easy to use service from Google, where you can move terabytes and terabytes or even petabytes worth of data very easily to cloud. So now, to again summarize, you get a tool that lets you move workload from on-premises to cloud extremely in the least possible friction, and in doing so it also gives you the capability to go back whenever you can. You also have generous amount of free credits to try your workloads, migrating your workloads to cloud. And then you get a data transfer appliance which will ensure that if you have terabytes and petabytes worth of data to move to cloud, you can easily do so. In combination of all, in combination, these three pillars of our data migration toolkit can meet the demands of the most complicated enterprise environments and deliver that promise of bringing cloud to a customer in least amount of time. So, in closing, I would like to tell you that moving to cloud is not a question of should I, it's a question of when. And once we have reached to this conclusion that it's evident and that we have to move to cloud, delaying that decision is not a wise one to make. Of course, it's not a simple decision to make as well. There are a lot of strategic as well as tactical challenges on the way, like business disruption, like large volume of data that needs to move. But there is sufficient amount of technology as well as services that Google Cloud provides today to the enterprises to leverage in order to ensure that they can move these workloads to cloud and enjoy the innovation that is happening on the cloud platforms, divest from areas that add very little value in terms of adding competitive advantage to their business, and reinvest all those resources in truly creating an impactful and delightful experience for their end customers. And with that, thank you so much for joining me today in this session where we spoke about migrating enterprise workloads to Google Cloud. I hope the session was useful and informative. Please feel free to explore more on technologies that we discussed on this in this session on cloud.google.com. And should you have any questions, please feel free to interact with us. I hope you enjoy the rest of the sessions as well. Thank you once again.